Hello all, welcome to my channel Codify with Sonal. Today I am starting AWS Solution Architect Associate Practice Question Series. This is not a tutorial, as for this exam you need in-depth knowledge of the services. So you can do any course which you like, maybe it is Cantrell, Neil or Stephen. I have already shared a video on planning strategy and the course links in my previous video. I'll pin it down to the I button as well as put it in the description box. Though these questions which I will be covering will help you practice what you have studied and give an overview of what type of questions can come in exam. So let's start. So let's start with the first question. So a company is planning to migrate a business critical data set to Amazon S3. The current solution design reuses a single S3 bucket in the US East 1 region with versioning enabled to store the dataset. The company's disaster recovery policy states that all data, multiple AWS regions. How should a solutions architect design the S3 solution? So first of all, to understand the question, you should have something in mind, like what is the thing, what topic they're talking about, and you should have some basic rough idea in your mind. Or maybe during exam you can use the whiteboard and you can write some basic formulas like, okay, one S3 bucket in US East 1, or maybe just create a, but you should practice this with your practice questions, because in exam you really don't have time to draw too much. So just, by writing the one liner or two liner, you should understand the concept which goes in your head quickly. So first thing, we will eradicate what does not suit. Before that, let me explain you what the question is saying. So you have one region US East 1 where you have one S3 bucket, okay, and the bucket is versioning enabled. Their disaster policy says that they want this bucket to be replicated everywhere. The data should be having replication, okay. So that's clear, right? Now we'll see what is CORS. So CORS is a document with rules that identify the origins that you will allow to access the bucket, the get, put, what you want to allow to access the bucket. This is not about accessing your bucket. It is about how you want to replicate your data, correct? So you will be requiring cross-region replication. Now here we see two CORS which we have disabled. Okay, so no CORS in this solution. We need replication. So now create an additional S3 bucket in another region and configure cross-region replication. Okay, so cross-region replication, we have two answers. Let's see the second one. Create an additional S3 bucket with versioning. So now this point, whenever you are doing a cross-region replication, you need to do versioning. Okay, that is a key pointer. So the correct answer to this question is create an additional S3 bucket with versioning in another region and configure cross-region replication. Let's go to the next question. You can maybe pause the video and you can read the question so that you understand it. Okay. A business want to utilize an AWS region as a backup site for its on-premise infrastructure. The organization now contains 10 terabytes of data and an on-premise data center has a 1 gigabyte per second internet connection. A solutions architect must devise a strategy that enables the organization to migrate its existing data to AWS in 72 hours without utilizing an unencrypted connection. Which option should the architect choose? Okay, so now here we will first, what you should do is you should check out your keyword 72 hours. They want to move from on-premise to their AWS region. Okay, so you have an on-premise data center and you have a region, AWS region, where you want to move your 10 gigabytes of data in 72 hours. Okay, now to understand that, let's see the first option. Send the initial 10 TB of data to AWS using FTP. Now they say unencrypted connection. So VPN FTP is an unencrypted connection. So they say without utilizing an unencrypted connection. So ruled out. Then coming to send the initial 10 TB of data to AWS using AWS Snowball. So the point is this can be done, but the condition is we have to do it in 72 hours. You will ask for Snowball, it will ship the Snowball, then you will load the data, you will send back the data. this cannot be done in 72 hours, right? Then coming to establish an AWS direct connect connection between VPC and company's data center. So to establish direct connect, it takes time. Okay, you cannot do it immediately. It is definitely out of question that it is a time bound, and time bound target you have 72 hours only, right? So coming to the third option, establish a VPN connection between Amazon VPC and the company's data center can be the answer. Okay. Establish an AWS direct connect connection between Amazon VPC and company's data center. So now C and D both can be the answers, but now while before choosing one, understand that it is, we have a time bound 72 hours, and we have to use a encrypted channel. Okay, so AWS direct connect and out of VPN, direct connect is not encrypted, VPN is encrypted. So we go with the answer as establish a VPN connection between Amazon VPC and the company's data center. Next, a company is running an application on Amazon EC2 instances hosted in a private subnet of VPC. The EC2 instances are configured in an auto-scaling group behind an ELB. The EC2 instances use a NAT gateway for outbound internet access. However, the EC2 instances are not able to connect to the public sub-internet to download software updates. What are the possible root causes? Okay. ELB is not configured with proper health check. Route tables in the VPC are not configured correctly. The EC2 instances are not associated with an elastic IP address. The security group attached to the NAT gateway is configured incorrectly. The outbound rules on the security group attached to the EC2 instances are configured incorrectly. So now, first let us understand what they are trying to say. Okay, with the architecture diagram, I'll make you understand this. There's a VPC in which they have a private subnet and a public subnet. So private subnet has EC2 with auto scaling and ELB. Okay, and that has a NAT gateway which goes through the internet gateway IGW. Okay, so now the first option was regarding ELB. So ELB has nothing to do with outgoing points. Okay, next the option was regarding route tables. So it can be because it has to go from here. The route tables can be configured incorrectly, due to which it is not able to reach the internet out. Then next option what we had was security group attached to the NAT gateway. So now there is no there is no security group in NAT gateway. There is NACLs. Okay, so this cannot be the option. So we had to choose two. So the correct answers are the route tables in the VPC are configured incorrectly, or else the outbound rules on the security group attached to the EC2 instances are configured incorrectly. Guys, while doing practicals, I have seen this, the last part, many times your security group rules are not configured correctly and you're not able to connect to the service. Next, an administrator of a large company wants to monitor for and prevent any cryptocurrency related attacks on the company's AWS accounts. Which AWS service can the administrator use to protect the company against attacks? So now let's see one by one. What is Cognito? Cognito is not related to attacks. It is related to authentication, authorization, and user management. Guard duty is related to attacks in a way, like it is a continuous security monitoring service that analyzes and processes data resources such as VPC flow logs, data event logs, CloudTrail data event logs, management logs, and DNS logs. So next, coming to inspector. So now inspector is proactive and guard duty is reactive. Okay, and massy coming to, it uses machine learning to discover and protect sensitive data and not attacks. Okay, so guard duty is the answer. Why? Because guard duty is the one who provides you, who protects you against cryptocurrency related attacks. Okay, so if you see cryptocurrency attacks, So the key point is guard duty. Next, a web application is deployed in the AWS cloud. It consists of a two-tier architecture that includes a web layer and a database layer. The web server is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. See your key point. Cross-site scripting attacks. So this is our key pointer. Okay, so cross-site scripting, whenever you see, it is always they want some, the answer will be to remediate cross-site, we need WAF, which is web application firewall. So now what happens is attackers, sometimes they insert scripts into the web request to exploit the vulnerabilities in web application. Okay, so WAF, the web application firewall, protects you against this cross-site scripting attacks. Okay, and WAF works at layer 7 of the OSI model. I guess everybody knows OSI model. If you want to know more about it, you can tell me. I can do a separate video on OSI model. Okay, so layer 7. So on layer 7 is application. That's why WAF works with application load balancer. Okay, and what does Shield do? Shield protects us against the DDoS attacks. So this question is pretty straightforward. So the answer to this question is create an application load balancer, put the web layer behind the load balancer and enable AWS WAF. So that's it for today. And if you have any questions or if you have any doubts, please let me know in the comment box. This is the new series that I have started. And make sure I am not telling you just go through these questions and you'll qualify. No, this I'm doing it as a practice series. So practice these questions out, which will help you understand the uh, problem thinking way. Because solution architect is a very complex exam, guys. You cannot just go through the questions and pass. That is just maybe 1 out of 10 people can pass that way, but understanding is important. Just certifying is not that great thing. So understand the things, go through the courses and which courses to go through, what study plan. Please check out the strategy plan what I have given you earlier. I'll put the link in the description box as well. Company is storing CSV files in an S3 bucket for statistical analysis. An application on an EC2 instance needs permission to efficiently process the CSV data stored in the S3 bucket. Which action is most securely grant the EC2 instance access to the S3 bucket? So now there's a CSV files which are stored inside S3 bucket. Okay, and your EC2 needs the permission to process that efficiently. Okay, so it's basically EC2 wants to talk to S3 in simple terms. So let's go option by option. So attach a resource based policy. So what is resource based policy? They are policies that are attached to the resources. Okay, you can specify who has access to the resource and what actions they can perform. But here we need EC2 to talk to S3. Okay, so this is not the correct answer. Then coming to creating an IAM user for the application with specific permissions to the S3 bucket. So if you want to give access, creating a separate user only for this reason does not make sense. Okay. Then storing AWS credentials directly on the EC2 instance for applications on the instance to use for API calls. So credentials directly is a big no. As you know, AWS security will be at risk. So the correct answer to this is associate an IAM role with least privilege permissions to the EC2 instance profile. In this way, EC2 will be able to access in a very secured way. Okay, and the question here points to most securely granting. Okay, so credentials can never be most securely granting it. So coming to the next question. You're a solution architect at an MNC. A large multinational client has requested a design for the multi-region, multi-master database. The client has requested that the database be designed for fast, massively scaled applications for a global user base. The database should be fully managed service, including the replication. Which AWS service can deliver these requirements? Okay, so first thing, let's go with the options. S3 with cross-region replication. So first of all, S3 is object store, not a multi-master database. Okay, so this is automatically out of question. Then one more, first try to eradicate the options, okay? So now in EC2, you can build the database, but DB level replication is required, and there is nothing called as EBS replication. So these two answers are out of question. Then coming to RDS with multi-AZ or DynamoDB with global tables and cross-region replication. So RDS with multi-AZ is not multi-master. Like you cannot write into multiple databases at one time. Okay, at one time you can write only on one database. So the correct answer to this is DynamoDB with global tables and cross-region replication. So when you create a global table, you can specify the AWS regions where you want the table to be available. One more point here is I would like to say DynamoDB performs all the tasks, like creation as well as, propagating all ongoing data changes to all of the tables. So if you want a fully managed service including replication, DynamoDB would be the best option. So coming to next question, you are planning to launch a Redshift cluster for processing and analyzing a large amount of data. The Redshift cluster will be deployed into a VPC with multiple subnets. Which construct is used when provisioning the cluster to allow you to specify a set of subnets in the VPC that the cluster will be deployed to? Okay. So about Redshift cluster, how it works is a huge thing. So I would like to say that I'll put the link in the description box where you can read about how Redshift cluster works and how you can create it and a lot of other things. So better you can see the document. And coming to options here. So first of all, subnet group. So subnet group is not used by cluster wise. It is used by elastic cache. Okay, then AZ, that is availability zone. Availability zone is a part of global infrastructure. Okay, then DB subnet group is for RDS, not for Redshift. Okay, then coming to this cluster subnet group. Cluster subnet group allows you to specify a set of subnets in your VPC. That's what we are looking for, right? So this is a straightforward answer. Which construct is used to specify set of subnets in the VPC? That's cluster subnet group. Next, a solution architect is responsible for a web application that runs on EC2 instances that sit behind an ALB, application load balancer. Auto scaling is used to launch instances across three AZs. The web application serves large image files, and these are stored on the Amazon EFS file system. Users have experienced delays in retrieving the files, and the architect has been asked to improve the user experience. So how can the architect do that? Okay, so we'll go option by option again. Cache static content using CloudFront. Yes, it can be an option. CloudFront is ideal for caching static content. Then reducing the file size of the images. This also can be an option, but as reducing file can give you better retrieval time. Okay, so but CloudFront is a more better approach. So as of now, I say A, I can eradicate B. Moving the digital assets to EBS, not at all. Why? Because it does not make any easy access or improve your performance. And using spot instances can definitely lower your cost, but you will not get a good user experience. So our question here is not of having less cost, it is about how you can improve more of user experience. So when you see these kind of questions, just try to focus on what they are exactly asking. Try to find out the keywords here, okay? So the correct answer is caching the static content using CloudFront. Coming to the next question. So a company needs the ability to analyze the log files of its proprietary application. The logs are stored in JSON format in an S3 bucket. Queries will be simple and will run on demand. Okay. So here you see the keywords. Queries will be simple. Okay. One of the point. A solution architect needs to perform the analysis with minimal changes to the existing architecture. Minimal changes to the existing architecture as in it does not want to shift the data from here to there. Okay, what should the solutions architect do to meet these requirements with the least amount of operational overhead? So now in this scenario they don't want to move the data. Why? Because they want to have minimal changes to the existing architecture. They want to have least amount of operational overhead. And third pointer is queries will be simple. So when you have simple queries in S3, which service do you use to run the queries? Athena, right? But let us see the other options also. Redshift to load the content. As I said, do not move the content because it wants minimal changes, less amount of operational overhead. CloudWatch logs, again, you're moving the data. AWS Glue to catalog the data. No moving data is required. Okay. And these are very simple queries. So there's no point to involve EMR and everything. There's nothing to do. Least amount of operational overhead. Queries in the data is in S3. Run Athena and run the queries as you need it. Okay. So coming to the next one. So a company hosts a data lake on AWS. The data lake consists of data in S3 and RDS for PostgreSQL. The company needs a reporting solution that provides data visualization and includes all the data sources within the data lake. Key pointer, data visualization. Only the company's management team should have access to all the visualizations. Only the company's management team. Focus. Okay. The rest of the company should have only limited access. Okay. So which solution should meet these requirements? You say visualization, okay? Data visualization tool in AWS, what we have is QuickSight, okay? So first thing that should come to your mind is QuickSight. So automatically you eradicate glue table. Automatically you eradicate glue table. So coming to QuickSight, we have two options. Say create an analysis in Amazon QuickSight, connect all the data sources and create new data sets, publish dashboards to visualize the data, share the dashboards with the IAM roles. Okay. Now it is saying that the company's management team should have full access. So there is a particular user, you have to share it with particular users and groups. So the correct answer to this will be create an analysis in Amazon QuickSight and connect the data sources and create new data sets and publish the dashboard. So after publishing, you will share the dashboard with the appropriate users and groups. Okay. And to further understand this, I will share a link down where you can read about how you can share the dashboards with users and groups after publishing the dashboard. Okay. Let's go to the next question. A company is recently migrated to AWS and wants to implement a solution to protect the traffic that flows in and out of the production data VPC. The company had an inspection server on its on-premises data center. The inspection server performs specific operations such as traffic flow inspection and traffic filtering. The company wants to have the same functionalities in the AWS cloud. Okay, so how will you meet these requirements? So first thing, focus on the key pointers here. Traffic flows in and out of the production data VPC. Okay, and it needs traffic flow inspection and traffic filtering. So when you see traffic flow inspection and traffic filtering, which thing gives you that? AWS network firewall. So using what is network firewall? It is a stateful managed thing given by AWS to to create the required rules for that you need for inspection and traffic filtering. Okay, and you can filter the traffic at the perimeter of the VPC. You can read more about it in the given link down in the description box. So coming to the next question, a company is implementing a new business application. The application runs on two Amazon EC2 instances and uses an Amazon S3 bucket for document storage. A solutions architect needs to ensure that the EC2 instances can access the S3 bucket. What should the solutions architect do to meet these requirements? Okay, so again, this is about EC2 wants to talk to S3. Okay, so I guess we can easily state that what the correct answer is. Okay, creating a role that grants you the access to S3 bucket and attaching the role to EC2 instances. I've already explained that in the previous question. This is a different way of asking this question. Okay. So coming to next question, a solutions architect is using S3 to design the storage architecture of a new digital media application. The media files must be resilient to the loss of an AZ. Okay. Some files are accessed frequently while other files are rarely accessed in an unpredictable pattern. Very important key pointer, unpredictable pattern. Okay. The solutions architect must minimize the cost of storing and retrieving the media files. Which storage option meets these requirements? Okay. Now, infrequent access, both the infrequent access does not make sense here because you don't know how rarely it will be accessed. Okay. Coming to standard and intelligent tiering. So when you see unpredictable pattern, so the key pointer is S3 intelligent tiering. Coming to next question, a company is storing backup files by using S3 standard storage. The files are accessed frequently for 1 month. However, the files are not accessed after 1 month. Make your pointers. Frequently for 1 month, not accessed after that. The company must keep files indefinitely. Okay. And which storage solution must meet these requirements most cost effectively? Let's go to the options. Configuring S3 intelligent tiering. S3 intelligent tiering, I just now told you, when you have unpredictable pattern, then you should think of it. But here we know a pattern that okay, 1 month it will be accessed very frequently, then it will not be accessed at all, but they want to keep the files. Okay. So, and they are already telling us that 1 month they are keeping it in S3 standard storage, standard class. Okay. So create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to deep glacier after 1 month. Good option, it cost effective option. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to S3 standard infrequent class after 1 month. What is the point? After 1 month, you don't even want to access it. You just want to keep it like an archive. Create an S3 life cycle configuration to transition objects from S3 standard to one zone. Not at all. Okay. Again, we don't want to use after 1 month. Infrequent access is not at all a point. Okay. A company observes an increase in EC2 cost in its most recent bill. The billing team notices unwanted vertical scaling of instance types for a couple of EC2 instances. A solution architect needs to create a graph comparing the last 2 months of EC2 cost and perform an in-depth analysis to identify the root cause of the vertical scaling. How should the solution architect generate the information with the least operational overhead? I would give you some time to pause the video and understand the question well. Okay. So, what the question is saying is that they want to generate a graph through which you can compare the last 2 months EC2 cost and also identify the root cause. Why? Because they are seeing some unwanted uh, billing in the last 2 months after they have done a vertical scaling of the instances. So they want to perform an in-depth analysis to understand what is the root cause. Okay, and they want it with least operational overhead. Okay, so let's go with the options. AWS budgets to create a budget report and compare EC2 costs based on instance types. Budget report would not generate graph. Okay, use Cost Explorer's granular filtering feature to perform an in-depth analysis of EC2 cost based on instance types. So this is yes, one of the answer why you can use it, because it provides you a proper graph and also you can view the data over 12 months. Okay. Use graphs from the AWS billing and cost management dashboard to compare EC2 cost based on instance types for the last 2 months. Here it is not exactly specifying where from the dashboard you are taking the graphs, whereas for point B it is mentioning granular filtering function. Okay, so whenever you have two close answers, try to find the one which goes more in detail. Okay. Option D, use AWS cost and usage reports to create a report and send it to an S3 bucket. Use Amazon QuickSight with Amazon S3 as a source to generate an interactive graph based on instance types. So here this can be done, but it is out of question over here. Why? Because it will require a lot of work. And as you see in the question, they want least operational overhead. Focus on the key points, as I always say. Least operational overhead you cannot have with this formation. Okay, so the correct answer to this is option B. Coming to the next question, a company needs to review its AWS cloud deployment to ensure that its Amazon S3 buckets do not have unauthorized configuration changes. What should a solutions architect do to accomplish this goal? Okay, so they have some unauthorized configuration changes. Okay, so they want to review. Okay, so the keyword here is review. When you want to review, you should use AWS config. Okay, so you need turn on AWS config with appropriate rules. Trusted advisor is used when you want to provide important recommendations. You need some checks to be done. Inspector scans for software vulnerabilities and network vulnerability issues, network reachability issues. Whereas S3 server access logging, configuring CloudWatch events or event bridge, that is out of point, because CloudWatch has nothing to do with your configurations. Okay, so the correct answer to this is AWS config with appropriate rules too. Next, a development team runs monthly resource intensive test on its general purpose RDS for MySQL DB instance with performance insights enabled. The testing lasts for 48 hours once a month and is the only process that uses database. The team wants to reduce the cost of running the test without reducing the compute and memory attributes of the DB instance. Which solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Okay, so make your key pointers here. They are doing some testing, okay, on the database, which is an RDS MySQL DB instance, okay, and the testing, it goes only once in a month for 48 hours, and this is the only process which uses the database. So it will not, there are no other processes which will use the database. So if you want the database to only be used for 48 hours once a month, there's no point running the database for the entire month and having a huge amount of bill, right? So let's see what options we have. Stop the DB instance when tests are completed and restart the DB instance. If you do this, yet memory will be in use. Okay, so it is not cost effective, and the solution what we require is cost effective solution we want. Okay, so using auto scaling policy is also not a solution, because here they are not talking about elasticity to require auto scaling. Okay, then creating a snapshot when tests are complete, terminate the DB instance and restore the snapshot when required. This is correct way of doing it. Okay, you can create the snapshot and you can shift that to S3 and you can restore when needed. Then modify the DB instance to a low capacity instance when tests are completed. Modify the DB instance again when required. So this can be done, but we need cost effective solution. So no need to, rerun the database again and again with modifying it, because RDS is already, they have told that they want to reduce the cost of running. So if you again modify things and try to run it, it is more cost consuming. So the correct answer to this is create a snapshot. Okay, next question, a company that hosts its web application on AWS wants to ensure all EC2 instances, RDS DB instances, and Redshift clusters are configured with tags. The company wants to minimize the effort of configuring and operating this check. What should a solution architect do to accomplish this? Now, what they want is they have some services, EC2 instances, DB instances, Redshift clusters, and they want everything to be configured with proper tags so that it is easy for usage. And the company wants to like minimize this effort, maybe a kind of trying to automate this. Okay, so as we saw in our previous question also, in our previous questions, that to for tags, config is the best way. So you can use config rules to define and detect resources that are not properly tagged. So all other options here we have already studied previously, so I would not like to go in detail. So cost explorer, we have already seen why it is used, API calls and all. This is not for proper tag allocations. Okay, So if you still have any doubt on this question, please let me know in the comment box below. So let's go ahead. A development team needs to host a website that will be accessed by other teams. The website contents consist of HTML, CSS, client-side JavaScript, and images. Which method is the most cost-effective for hosting the website? Come on, this you can answer. So it's a static website understood by the contents. Okay, static website S3. Okay, so this is a short question. Okay, so we have discussed a lot of things in this about static website in other videos. Okay, so let's go ahead. The correct answer is create an Amazon S3 bucket and host the website there. So next, a company hosts its multi-tier applications on AWS for compliance, governance, auditing, and security. The company must track configuration changes on its AWS resources and record a history of API calls made to these resources. What should a solution architect do to meet these changes? So to track configuration, we have seen what we should use, AWS config. And for tracking, getting a record of history of API calls, you need Cloud Trail. Okay, so let's see where we have this in option. First option, use Cloud Trail to track configuration changes. Here itself it is wrong. You cannot use Cloud Trail for config changes. You should use config for tracking the configuration changes. Coming to the second one, use config to track configuration changes, correct, and CloudTrail to record API calls. That's what we were talking for. Now coming to the third point, use AWS config to track configuration changes, correct, and Amazon CloudWatch to record API calls. No, you do not use CloudWatch to record API calls. You use CloudTrail. Okay. Last option, use AWS CloudTrail to track configuration changes. No, we have already seen this in the second point. Okay, so the correct answer to this is second, AWS config to track configuration changes and AWS CloudTrail to record API calls. Coming to the next question. A company is preparing to launch a public-facing web application in the AWS cloud. The architecture consists of EC2 instances within a VPC behind an ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. A third-party service, make your points. A third-party service is used for the DNS, third party, not Route 53. The company's solution architect must recommend a solution to detect and protect against large-scale DDoS attacks. DDoS attacks. Which solution meets these requirements? So DDoS, as you see DDoS, go towards AWS Shield. Okay, this is a key note for you guys. DDoS attacks equal to AWS Shield. Now, we see AWS Shield in 2 points, C and D. So, coming to the point C, it says assign it to Route 53. So now Route 53, as I told you in the pointer, that they are using a third party service. They are not using Amazon's Route 53. So the correct answer to this is enable AWS Shield Advanced and assign the ELB to it. Okay. Next, a company is hosting a static website on Amazon S3 and is using Amazon Route 53 for DNS. The website is experiencing increased demand from around the world. The company must decrease latency for users who access the website. Which solution meets these requirements most cost effectively? Okay, this we had discussed in our Cloud Practitioner series. If you, any one of you is preparing for Cloud Practitioner, do check out the Cloud Practitioner series also. So in this we saw CloudFront distribution is one service through which if your website is being accessed from around the world, it helps you enable an origin point through which you have edge locations, origin point. There are a lot of pointers inside it. Okay, I would not like to go in detail of it, but through CloudFront distribution, you can easily decrease the latency for users who are trying to access your website. Suppose I am in Germany, so I'll be able to easily access the website if I have an edge location marked in Germany itself. Okay, so this way things work for CloudFront distribution. Okay, so S3 static website with Route 53, the best way to reduce the latency is CloudFront distribution. You see that in the third point. Okay, add an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the S3 bucket. Edit the Route 53 entries to point to the CloudFront distribution. Okay. Next, a company maintains a searchable repository of items on its website. The data is stored in an RDS for MySQL database table that contains more than 10 million rows. The database has 2 TB of general purpose SSD storage. There are million of updates against this data. Million of updates against this data points every day through the company's website. The company has noticed some insert operations, again make a note, are taking 10 seconds or longer. The company has determined that the database storage performance is the problem. Which solution addresses this performance issues? Let's go to the options. Change the storage type to provisioned IOPS SSD. Good option. It would give you better performance. It talks about storage and better IO. So that's what it can give you. Then memory optimized, if you make it, then the data is too huge. Okay, it's 10 million rows. So memory optimized, not a point. And making it to a burstable performance, here the problem is not in compute, here the problem is about storage. Okay, then enable multi-AZ RDS read replicas. They have already told that there is a problem in update, there's a problem while insertions. So making more read replicas, not a solution. Okay, so the correct answer to this is change the storage type to provisioned IOPS SSD. Coming to the next question, a company runs a highly available image processing application on EC2 instances in a single VPC. The EC2, the EC2 instances run inside several subnets across multi-AZ. The EC2 instances do not communicate with each other. However, the EC2 instances can download images from S3 and upload images to S3 through a single NAT gateway. The company is concerned about data transfer changes. What is the most cost effective way for the company to avoid regional data transfers? Regional data transfer charges. Okay, so now here, to avoid regional data transfer cost, if we deploy VPC gateway endpoint, then data will be transferred through AWS network only. Okay, it won't look for some third network through which we have lot of charges to pay. So the most cost effective way is to deploy a gateway VPC endpoint for S3. So that's it for today, guys. If you have any doubts regarding these questions what we have discussed today, so please let me know in the comment box below. And if you are interested to know how should you plan your certification, what courses you should refer, I've shared a strategy plan of how I prepared for my certification. So I've pinned the video link in the I button above. You can check that out. And if I've already told regarding the Cloud Practitioner series, if anyone is interested, please check out the videos. A company is rapidly growing in recent months, has been in the process of setting up IAM users on its single AWS account. Keywords: single AWS account. A solution architect has been tasked to handle the user management, which includes granting read only access to users and denying permissions whenever an IAM user has no MFA setup. Okay, what is MFA? Multi-factor authentication. New users will be added frequently based on their respective departments. Another, new users' respective departments. Which of the following action is the most secure way to grant permission to the new users? Okay, so let's go through the options. Take your time, pause the video, and understand the question well. Okay, so now see what is happening. The company is growing. Okay, they have now the process of setting up IAM users. They want to do something which is a more faster and more secured way. Okay, they want to have read only access. They want users to deny permissions if the user has not done an MFA setup. Okay, so all these things, and whenever new users are joining, according to their department, they want the access to be added. Okay, what is the best way we can help them out? So let's see. Launch an IAM group for each department. Makes sense because new users will be added frequently based on their respective departments. Create an IAM policy that enforces MFA authentication with the least privilege permission. Correct. Attach IAM policy to each IAM group. This is correct. So this is our correct answer, but let's see why others are wrong. Okay. So now create a service control policy that enforces MFA authentication for each department. Add a trust relationship to every SCP and attach it to each IAM user. First of all, SCP is used when you have multiple accounts. It's an organizational root account, all that things, right? But here they have clearly mentioned, when I read the question, I told you key point, single AWS account. So SCP does not even come into the picture. Okay. So attach IAM role to the IAM groups. Okay. This point says that create IAM role that enforces MFA authentication with the least privilege. Set up a corresponding IAM group for each department. Attach IAM role to the groups. So now why this is incorrect? Because IAM group usually is provided with IAM policy, not IAM role. So there is no direct way in AWS management console to manually assign an IAM role to a particular group, IAM group. Okay. So you can attach an IAM policy, you cannot attach an IAM role. That's the reason this is not correct. Okay. Then set up IAM roles for each IAM user and associate a permissions boundary that defines the maximum permissions. So you might have read always the best practice of IAM. What is the best practice? Grant least privilege, not the other way around. Why will you give maximum permissions? Correct? You need to make it secured, not be open to the community and give them the permission, do whatever you want, right? So yeah, the correct answer is on the screen. Okay, you will put up an IAM group and you will attach an IAM policy which enforces them to MFA authentication with the least privilege, and whenever new user comes you can add them to this group, they will automatically have the policy attached. Okay, so it is like more secure, more faster. Okay. Coming to the next question, a company launched a website that accepts high quality photos and turns them into a downloadable video montage. Okay. The website offers a free and a premium account that guarantees faster processing. All requests by both free and premium members go through a single SQS queue and then processed by a group of EC2 instances that generate the videos. The company needs to ensure that the premium users who paid for the service have higher priority than the free members. Okay. How should the company redesign its architecture to address this requirement? So now, whenever you have any premium membership, you get some privileges, right? So that's what they are asking. So the company needs to ensure that premium members who paid for the service, they get higher priority than the members who are having free access. Okay. So how should the company redesign the architecture? Okay. Let's see options. First, whenever I tell you, let's see options, pause the video and try to answer it yourself. And I've always told you, please don't treat this as dumps. Try to understand the things. Only reading dumps, maybe it will help you in passing the exam. But you need to implement things, right? So you need to understand how the process is. Okay. Understand the course first. Try to do hands on labs and then go for these practice series. Okay. So let's read the options. Use S3 to store and process the photos and then generate the video montage afterward. Now, S3 is used for durable storage, not for processing data. So this option is not correct. Then coming to next option, using Amazon Kinesis to process the photos and generate the video montage in real time. Now, why is this incorrect? Is because Kinesis is used to process streaming data. Okay, here the case is different. Create an SQS for free members and another one for premium members. Configure your EC2 instances to consume messages from the premium queue first, and if it is empty, poll from the free members SQS queue. So this is a correct way. Okay, why it is a correct way? So we'll see is that when you have SQS, so what is SQS? It is a fully managed message queuing service. Okay, so it eliminates the complexity You can send, you can store, you can receive messages, and you don't have risk of losing messages. Okay, so to provide a specific priority to the premium members, we can use this approach that okay, use one queue for premium and one queue for free, and let the premium queue finish its messages first, and then after that let the free members queue be processed. So what will happen, it will get a priority. Okay, and for the request made by premium members, set a higher priority in SQS queue, so it will be processed first compared to the request made by free members is incorrect. Okay, as there is no way you can set a priority to individual items in the SQS queue. Okay, so the correct answer is that you will create two queues for this, one for free members, one for premium. Premium goes first, free queue goes second. Okay, if you have any doubts, please let me know in the comment box, and please do not forget to subscribe the channel. It it takes lot of hard work to make all these videos, so if you like it, please do subscribe the channel. Next, a solutions architect is migrating several Windows based applications to AWS that require a scalable file system storage for high performance computing. The storage service must have full support for the SMB protocol and Windows NTFS, Active Directory integration, and distributed file system. Which of the following is the most suitable storage service that the architect should use to fulfill this scenario? Now, what they want to migrate from a Windows based application to AWS. What they have a file storage system, okay, file system storage, and they want high performance computing. They are using SMB protocol and NTFS protocol, AD integration, and DFS system. FSX provides fully managed Windows file servers with features and performance optimized for lift and shift business critical applications, you know, and it is accessible from Windows and Linux instances via SMB protocol. Okay, let's see why other options are not correct. Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So this is incorrect because it is used for like securable, durable, extremely low cost cloud storage for like basically for data archiving and long term backup. Okay, FSX for Lustre. FSX for Lustre is incorrect because it will not support Windows based applications as well as Windows Server. Okay, it is mostly used for Linux. Data sync. Data sync is basically a fast way to move large amounts of data online between on premises storage and S3 or EFS system. Okay, so the correct answer is FSX for Windows File Server. Next question. A company requires corporate IT governance and cost oversight of all its AWS resources across its divisions around the world. Their corporate divisions want to maintain administrative control of the discrete AWS resources they consume and ensure that those resources are separate from other divisions. Which of the following options will support the autonomy of each corporate division while enabling corporate IT to maintain governance and cost oversight? So, this question is about how you will get an integrated details of the cost, and how will you support the autonomy of each corporate division. Okay, they have divided it, and how will you maintain those and all that things inside AWS. Okay, so let's see options one by one. So you can use IAM role to delegate access to resources that are in different accounts, okay, different AWS accounts. So you share these resources in one account with with users in a different account. So set this cross account, you don't have to sign out of one account, you can sign in into another to access your resources that are in different AWS account. That is the flexibility given. So, and for billing fear cost oversight, you can use the consolidated billing feature. Okay, so combined use of IAM consolidated billing will support your autonomy of each corporate division while enabling corporate IT to maintain their governance and cost oversight. So the correct answers are use consolidated billing by creating AWS organizations to link divisions account to a parent corporate account. Okay, and enable IAM across account access for all the corporate IT administrators in each child account. Okay, so let's see why other three are not correct. Okay, now create separate VPC for each division within corporate IT AWS account, and launch an AWS transit gateway with equal cost multipath routing and VPN tunnels for intra VPC communication. So this is incorrect because you creating separate VPCs would not separate the divisions from each other, since they will be still operating under the same account, correct? And if they are operating in the same account, they will contribute to the same billing each month. Creating separate availability zones for each division within the corporate IT AWS account improve communication between the two AZs using the AWS global accelerator. So it is incorrect because you do not need to create AZs. They are already provided for you by AWS right from start. And using trusted advisor and AWS resource group stack editor is incorrect because trusted advisor is what we have discussed a lot of times, guys. It is an online tool which helps you understand what is the best practices for your resources. Okay, and whereas tag editor, it allows you to add, edit and delete the tags to multiple AWS resources just for your easy identification and monitoring. Let's go to the next question. A leading e-commerce company is in need of a storage solution that can be simultaneously accessed by 1,000 Linux servers in multi-AZ. Okay, Linux servers. Make that clear. The servers are hosted in EC2 instances that use a hierarchical directory structure. Another point, directory structure via the NFS v4 protocol. You need to remember the protocol in exam, guys, because seeing the protocol you should identify, okay, this can be an answer. Okay, the service should be able to handle rapid change at scale, which still maintaining high performance. It should also be highly durable and highly available whenever the servers will pull data from it, with little need for management. As the solutions architect, which of the following services is the most cost effective choice that you should use to meet the above requirement? Okay, so I've discussed the key points while reading the question itself. So here the major keywords is rapidly changing data and Linux servers, 1,000 Linux servers. So what goes best with this? EFS, right? Because EFS provides you a file system interface, okay, as they said, directory structure they want, okay, and it is based on Linux servers. So all that goes in hand, right? Like EFS is the best solution for you. And whenever you see POSIX compatible file system, so EFS is the answer. This is also one keyword range. Okay, now why the other options are incorrect, let's see that. Storage gateway. Now storage gateway is primarily, it is used to extend the storage of your on-premises data center to your AWS cloud. It has nothing to do with storing the file system and all, no. Then EBS is what? Elastic block storage, right? So it is cannot be shared by multiple instances. Okay, this is the reason here it is not correct. And S3, it provides the same type of availability and scalability like EFS, but it is not suitable for a data which is rapidly changing. You need to understand what goes more correctly. Try to match each and every word, what goes correctly with the options. Okay, EFS is the correct answer. Next question. A company plans to use Route 53 instead of an ELB to load balance the incoming request to the web application. The system is deployed to two EC2 instances to which the traffic needs to be distributed. You want to set a specific percentage of traffic to go to each instance. Which routing policy would you choose? For example, now if you want to send a tiny portion of your traffic to one resource and rest to the other resource, okay, so you'll have some weights, right? So you will say, okay, this much percentage here, this much percentage here. So if you want to stop sending traffic to a resource, you can change their weight and you can say, okay, I don't want to send any traffic, so let's make the weight as 0. So the correct routing policy which you will use here is weighted. Okay, now let's see why others are incorrect. Failover. Now failover is incorrect because it is an active passive failover configuration for your web application, not a weighted one. Okay, coming to geolocation. Geolocation is more suitable when you it is based on the location of your user, not for distributing specific percentage. Okay, latency is incorrect because you cannot set a specific percentage. Here they are clearly mentioning in the question they want to set a specific percentage, so weighted is the only correct answer. Okay, next, a large financial firm in the country has an AWS environment that contains several EC2 instances, reserved EC2 instances, hosting a web application that has been decommissioned last week. To save costs, you need to stop incurring charges for the reserved instances as soon as possible. What cost effective steps will you take in this circumstance? Select two. Okay, make sure you keep this in mind while attempting the questions in exam. Read clearly whether you have to select one answer or two answer. Okay, you just select one and go ahead, it will not tell you to select two many times. So here what are they saying, that there's a large financial firm. Okay, they have some reserved EC2 instances and it has been decommissioned last week. So like they are not using it anymore. So now to save cost, you need to stop the charges, right? So what you will do, and in the way that it will be cost effective. So stopping the reserved instances as soon as possible. Now this is incorrect because a stopped instance can still be restarted, correct? Then contact AWS to cancel your AWS subscription. It is incorrect. You don't need to close down your account, correct? So that's not correct. Go to the AWS reserved instance market and sell the reserved instances is correct. Okay, you can sell the reserved instances. Okay, then coming to the next option, terminate the reserved instances as soon as possible to avoid getting billed at the on demand price when it expires. Correct, this is one way to stop the cost. Okay, and go to amazon.com online shopping website. No guys, please, amazon.com online shopping will not let you sell your AWS reserved instance. You have a specific AWS reserved instance marketplace to sell it. Okay, you cannot go and sell it on amazon.com. So the correct answer to this is go to the AWS reserved instance marketplace and sell the reserved instances and terminate the reserved instances as soon as possible to avoid getting billed. Next question. A startup plans to develop a multiplayer game that uses UDP as the protocol for communication between clients and game servers. The data of the users will be stored in key value store, DynamoDB. Okay. As the solution architect, you need to implement a solution that will distribute the traffic across a number of servers. Which of the following could help you to achieve this requirement? Okay, so as I gave you the hint, DynamoDB. So B and C are out of discussion. Okay, and the protocol is UDP. UDP comes under network protocol, network layer protocol. So the correct answer is definitely distribute the traffic using network load balancer and store the data in DynamoDB. Now B and C, why they are wrong? Because RDS and Aurora are not key value store. Okay, and why D is wrong is because the protocol is UDP. When you have UDP and TCP protocol, the answer will always be network load balancer because UDP is a layer 4 traffic. That is why you will use network load balancer. Next question. A logistics company plans to automate its order management application. The company wants to use SFTP file transfer in uploading business critical documents. Since the files are confidential, the files need to be highly available and must be encrypted at rest. The files must also be automatically deleted a month after they are created. Which of the following options should be implemented to meet the company requirements with the least operation overhead? Okay. So here what I want there's a logistics company, they want to automate their order management application, and they will be using SFTP file transfer protocol in uploading their business critical documents. Okay, now files are highly confidential. As they say, business critical documents, the file needs to be highly available, and they should also be encrypted at rest. Okay, and our files should automatically be deleted after they are a month after they are created. So these kind of feature we had seen in our earlier examples, right? Earlier questions. If you have not seen them, please go and watch the part 2 or 3. We have discussed this kind of question. So when you want to have the files in a highly available, highly durable, because the files are quite confidential, you will use S3 bucket. Okay, and in S3 bucket you also have a feature of implementing lifecycle rules, which allow you to delete after a certain moment, after a certain month, like as they have said, delete after a month. Okay, so and S3 gives you encryption enabled option also. Okay, so the correct answer to this is create an S3 bucket with encryption enabled, launch an AWS transfer for SFTP endpoint to securely upload files to the S3 bucket. And you can configure an S3 lifecycle rule to delete files after a month. Now let's see why others are not correct. Provision an Amazon EC2 instance and install the SFTP service. Mount an encrypted EFS file system on the EC2 instance to store the uploaded files. Add a cron job to delete the files older than a month. Is incorrect. Why? Because it is possible, but it has lot of operational overhead. You will need to manage your EC2 instance, your SFTP service, so lot of operational overhead. Okay, create an EFS file system and enable encryption. Configure AWS transfer for SFTP to securely upload files to the EFS file system. Add an EFS lifecycle policy to delete files after 30 days is incorrect, because this is also possible, but EFS lifecycle management doesn't delete the object. It can only transition files in and out of the infrequent access tier basically. The last option says create an S3 bucket with encryption enabled. Configure AWS transfer for SFTP to securely upload files to the S3 bucket. Configure the retention policy on the SFTP server to delete files after a month. This is also incorrect because you have a 30-day retention policy must be configured on the S3 bucket. There is no retention policy on SFTP AWS transfer. Okay, so the correct thing you have seen, S3 bucket with encryption enabled and a lifecycle rule to delete the files after a month. And you will also launch an AWS transfer for SFTP endpoint to add to upload the files in S3 bucket securely. Next question. A new online banking platform has been redesigned to have a microservices architecture in which complex applications are decomposed into smaller independent services. The new platform is using Docker, considering that the application containers are optimal for running small decoupled services. The new solution should remove the need to provision and manage servers, lets you specify and pay for resources per application, and improve security through application isolation by design. Which of the following is the most suitable service to use to migrate this new platform to AWS? Let's see this. EKS. So EKS is incorrect because to that is this is more suitable to run Kubernetes management infrastructure, not Docker. Okay. Next, EFS is the option available. So EFS is a file system for Linux-based workloads for use with AWS cloud services and on-premise resources. So here it is not and it does not do the job what we need. Okay, we need the service to migrate this new platform to AWS. Okay, Fargate. Now Fargate is what it is, a serverless compute engine for containers, and it works well with both ECS, the container service, elastic container service, and EKS. So Fargate makes it easy for you to focus on building your applications. It will all the things whatever. Okay, so this is the basically this is the definition of Fargate. Okay, remove the need to provision and manage resources, let you specify and pay for resources per application. This is a definition of Fargate. So you should, if you have read Fargate, you should know this. Okay, the Fargate is the correct answer here. Okay, and why EBS is not correct is because it is primarily used to provide persistent block storage volumes for use with EC2 instances in the cloud. So Fargate is the correct answer. A popular social media website uses a CloudFront web distribution to serve their traffic, to serve their static contents to their millions of users around the globe. They are receiving number of complaints recently that their users take a lot of time to log into their website. There are also occasions when their users are getting HTTP 504 errors. You are instructed by your manager to significantly reduce the user's login time to further optimize the system. Which of the following options should you use together to set up a cost effective solution that can improve your application's performance? So first of all, pause the video and go ahead and read the question twice to understand it properly. And see here it is mentioned select two. Okay, so make sure you read in the question well. You have to select one answer or two answer. There's no negative marking. If you don't know, please mark and move ahead. Okay, so now what it is saying is there's a social media website. Okay, and it is using CloudFront web distribution with static content, static website, and they have users around the globe. Okay, and the users are in millions. So now they are receiving a number of complaints that users are taking lot of time to log into the website, and some users are also getting 504 errors. Okay, so you as a solution architect, you are being instructed by your manager that how will you reduce the login time to, like, you have to optimize it, right? You yourself as a user won't like if you are getting 504 errors in the uh, application or in the website, right? So what can we do to give a cost effective solution? Okay, and it should improve the performance also very well. Okay, so let's go read the options. Customize the content that the CloudFront web distribution delivers to your users using lambda at the rate edge, which allows your lambda functions to execute the authentication process in AWS locations closer to the users. So now, in the given scenario, you can use lambda at the rate edge to allow your lambda function to customize the content that CloudFront delivers and to execute the authentication process in AWS location closer to the users. So in with this, you can also add additional setup of origin failover by creating origin group. You can read more about it in the CloudFront documentation of Amazon Docs, AWS Docs basically. So if you use that origin specific, and you'll have it will automatic CloudFront will automatically switch to when primary origin fails, it will go to a secondary one. So this will not allow 504 errors what users are expecting. Okay, so the correct thing to this the correct answer to these question will be, you will have a lambda at the rate edge. Okay, because it will allow you to customize the content according to the AWS locations closer to the users. And then second thing, if you have if you are setting up an origin failover by creating an origin group, so like that's what, if you have, if primary origin is not working, you can go to the secondary origin. Okay, and that's how you will avoid the HTTP status code failure error. So A and C are the correct answers, but why B, D, and E are not correct? Let's go and see that. Deploy your application to multiple AWS regions to accommodate your users around the world. Set up a Route 53 record with latency routing policy to route incoming traffic to the region that provides the best latency to the user. Now this is why this is incorrect. Okay, it will solve the performance issue. Okay, like but it will also give you a cost. You have to deploy your application to multiple AWS regions, and remember, whenever you're being asked cost effective. If the other option is correct, check out which is more cost effective option. Okay, every company wants to save cost, right? Now let's see why D is incorrect. Use multiple and geographically dispersed VPCs to various AWS regions. Then create a transit VPC to connect all of your resources. In order to handle the request faster, set up Lambda functions in each region using the AWS Serverless Application Model SAM service. Now, why this is incorrect? So it is because already, okay, fine, you can set multiple VPCs across various regions. Transit VPC is also okay, fine, valid, but it will still lot of setup, lot of maintenance cost effective option required. So best is to use lambda at the rate edge. Okay. Next, configure your origin to add a cache control max age directive to your objects and specify the longest practical value for max age to increase the cache hit ratio of your app. CloudFront distribution is incorrect. Why? Because increasing the cache would definitely, cache max age size would definitely give you a better performance. But now here the problem is that they have in authentication process. Okay, so caching of the static objects is not a problem here. The problem here is login to their website, right? So it's an authentication based thing. So just increasing the cache control max age is not a valid solution. Okay. So as we discussed, lambda at the rate edge and setting up an origin group is the correct answer. Next question. A company has developed public APIs hosted in Amazon EC2 instances behind an elastic load balancer. The APIs will be used by various clients from the respective on-premise data centers. A solution architect received a report that the web service clients can only access trusted IP addresses whitelisted on their firewalls. What should you do to accomplish above requirement? Now mark your keywords, as I always say, trusted IP addresses whitelisted and on firewalls. And now when they're talking about trusted IPs and everything, the thing what comes first thing that should come into picture is network load balancer. Okay, and you will have an elastic IP address, so you should trust EIP. Like you can bring your own IP, so bringing your own IP will have that you will use elastic IP address. And as I said, firewall, it will be network load balancer. So this way there's no need to re-establish the whitelisted new IP addresses. So the correct answer to this is associate an elastic IP address to a network load balancer. Okay, so let's see why others are not correct. Create an alliance record in Route 53 which maps to the DNS name of the load balancer is incorrect. Now, why it is incorrect? Because it won't allow them to access the application because of the trusted IP addresses on their firewalls. Okay, so you cannot even work that out. Associate an elastic IP address to an application load balancer. So as this is based on firewalls and IP addresses, so there's nothing to do with application load balancer. Okay, so that's incorrect. Create a CloudFront distribution whose origin points to the private IP addresses of your web servers. Now, why this is incorrect is because web service clients can only access trusted IP addresses. So, like the fastest way is to attach the elastic IP address. Okay. So, EIP to network load balancer. Make this as a key point. Trusted IP address whitelisted. You see this 4 words? Definitely it is EIP and network load balancer. NLB. EIP, NLB. Remember this. A fast food company is using AWS to host their online ordering system, which uses an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances deployed across multiple AZs with an application load balancer in front. To better handle the incoming traffic from various digital devices, you are planning to implement a new routing system where requests which have a URL of so and so are forwarded to one specific target group named Android target group. Conversely, requests which have URL of so and so are forwarded to another separate group, iOS targeted group. So how your ordering system works, right, in app Android and iOS. So that's how they are having two target groups. One is Android and one is iOS. So whenever the request comes from Android, it should be forwarded to Android target group, and so for the iOS. Okay, now how can you implement this change? Okay, so I hope the question is understood. So let's go ahead and understand what is correct and what is not correct. So as they have mentioned the correct URL, so you should use path conditions to define the rules. So there is something called as path conditions inside. We also call it as path based routing. Okay, so what it does is it helps you to define rules, that forwards requests to different target groups based on the URL. So the definition itself is there in the question, guys. Target group based on the URL. This is what path based routing. Okay, so why others are not correct, let's go and check that. Use host conditions to define rules that forward requests to different target groups based on the host name in the host header. This enables you to support multiple domains using a single load balancer. Now, why this is incorrect? Because host-based routing defines rules that forwards requests to different target groups based on the host name. We have been asked for the URL, not on by the host name. Replace your ALB with a network load balancer and then use host conditions to define rules that forward requests to different target groups based on the URL in the request. Now, why this is incorrect is because network load balancer is used for applications that need extreme network performance, and it uses static IP. Okay, so it will not support path-based routing. Replace your ALB with a gateway load balancer and then use path conditions to define rules that forward requests to different target groups based on the URL in the request. Now, why this is incorrect is because gateway load balancer itself does not support path-based routing. You must use an application load balancer to do that. So the correct answer we have seen, it is path conditions to define rules that forward requests to different target groups based on the URL in the request. Next question. An application hosted in EC2 consumes messages from an SQS queue and is integrated with SNS to send out an email to you once the process is complete. The operations team received 5 orders, but after a few hours, they saw 20 email notifications in their inbox. Which of the following could be possible for culprit for this issue? So now what they are saying is they are using SQSQ integrated with SNS, which consumes EC2 messages. Okay, now it will send out to you email only once the process is completed. Okay, so now what is happening is after receiving 5 orders, they should get 5 emails, but they saw they are getting 20 emails. Okay, so what does this mean? Why it is happening and who is the responsible for this? So I'll tell you one thing about SQS first, that SQS will continue to exist even after the EC2 instance has processed it, until you delete the message explicitly. Okay, you have to ensure that you delete the message after processing, so that to prevent message from being received and processed once again, because till the visibility timeout expires it will keep processing. So the three main parts in distributed messaging system are what? EC2 instances, SQS servers, and messages in the queue. So the correct answer to this is the web application is not deleting the messages in the SQS queue after it has processed them. But we'll see why A, B and D are not correct. So web application does not have permission to consume messages in the SQS. Now why this is incorrect is because not having a correct permission would have resulted into a different response. It will not over send the messages, correct? And whereas concern for the web application is set to short polling, so some messages are not being picked up. So this can also not be correct because you are receiving messages which are certainly being processed. You are receiving like more than once, right? It won't result into 20 messages. It's the same logic. Last one for the web application is set for long polling, so the messages are being sent twice. And now why this is incorrect? Because long polling helps in reducing the cost of using SQS by eliminating the number of empty responses. When there are no messages available for a receive message request, like it will basically stop you from sending empty messages. Okay, messages being sent twice is not long polling. So correct is you're not get the messages are not getting deleted. Next, a solution architect needs to set up the required compute resources for the application which have workloads that require high sequential read and write access to very large data sets on local storage. Which of the following instance type is the most suitable one to use in this scenario? So coming to this question, this type of question will definitely be there. At least one question will come out of 65 questions. So make sure you study all these instances carefully. At least study their key points. Okay. So now the keywords here are high sequential read and write. Okay, and it is very large data sets, local storage. Okay, local storage. Make that in point. Okay, as I told you, the keywords, right? So storage optimized instances are designed for the workloads that require high sequential read and write access to very large data sets on local storage. Okay, so this is the definition of storage optimized instances. So basically you need to know the proper definitions, proper understanding of the services. What the question is, it is a definition of the answer. Okay, we have seen this right in the previous questions also. So now, storage optimized instances, they are optimized to deliver tens of thousands of low latency random IO operations per second to the application. Okay, so why memory optimized is incorrect is because memory optimized are designed to deliver fast performance for workloads that process large data sets in memory, not on local storage. Okay. Then compute optimized is because compute optimized is incorrect because it is ideal for compute bound applications that benefit from high performance processors. Okay, such as batch processing is required. No, that time you should go for compute optimized batch processing workloads, or media transcoding. Then general purpose instance is the kind of basic type of instance. Now here they need high sequential read and write access, large data sets. Okay, so for the that general purpose won't be suitable. So the correct answer to this is storage optimized. Okay, an application is hosted in an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. To improve the monitoring process, you have to configure the current capacity to increase or decrease based on a set of scaling adjustments. Set based on a set of scaling adjustments. Keywords. This should be done by specifying the scaling matrix and threshold values for the CloudWatch alarms that trigger the scaling process. Which of the following is the most suitable type of scaling policy that you should use? Definitely one question from the scaling policy. Okay, so now make sure you know all the scaling policies, what are its matrix. One of the very famous question is, I don't know it, I don't remember whether I've covered that. What kind of metric is not a custom metric in scaling policy? Okay, that kind of question, if I remember that question or I get that question somewhere, I'll definitely put it up in the community post. Okay, so let's go with this. We'll read whatever, we'll check out what each scaling means. Okay, and what is the correct to this one. So now let's go ahead and see all the scaling one by one. Step scaling. So what is step scaling is increase or decrease the current capacity of the group based on a set of scaling adjustments. It's a group of scaling adjustment and that vary based on the size of the alarm breach. Okay. Then scheduled scaling. How does scheduled scaling work is, it is based on a schedule, right? As the word says, it allows you to set your own scaling schedule. Like if you know that after maybe in the night I have my workload as very less, So according to that, the scaling policy will be working. Okay, it will decrease the resources so that unnecessary usage is not done. Okay, so that's how it works. Like that is suitable when you have a predictable load changes. Okay, and whenever you're using dynamic scaling, this is not considered. Okay, and here, in this scenario, the correct answer would be a step scaling. Why? Because as I said, it is a set of scaling adjustments, and it is done on the breach of CloudWatch alarm. So the correct answer to this is step scaling. Why simple scaling and target scaling is not correct is because simple scaling is not based on a group of scaling adjustments. It is just based on a single scaling adjustment. And target tracking scaling is based on target value. Like if you have achieved that kind of that kind of metric value, then only it will increase or decrease your resource. Okay, so this is a very simple and straightforward question. Set of scaling adjustments, so the correct answer is step scaling. Next question. A solution architect needs to deploy a mobile application that collects votes for a singing competition. Millions of users from around the world will submit votes using their mobile phones. These votes must be collected and stored in a highly scalable and highly available database, which will be queried for real-time ranking. The database is expected to undergo frequent schema changes. Real-time ranking, frequent schema changes throughout the voting period. I've already highlighted you the keywords. Okay. Which of the following combination of services should the architect use to meet this requirement? So first of all, we have already seen frequent schema changes is what? DynamoDB, right? So when you see this frequent schema changes, what should come into your mind? DynamoDB. Okay, so here we have it in only one option. So yeah, this is the correct option. We'll discuss why and why others are not correct. So DynamoDB is what exactly? It is a durable, scalable and highly available data store which can be used, okay, in real-time tabulation. You can also use AppSync with DynamoDB. Okay, it will make it easier to, build and collaborative apps. What is AppSync? It syncs the whole application and keeps you up to date. Okay, you just specify the data for your app with simple code statements, and AppSync manages everything to keep your data updated in real time. Okay. So why DocumentDB and AppFlow are incorrect? DocumentDB is a viable database option. Okay. AppFlow cannot interface with it query updates. So why RDS is not correct, you know it, and why Aurora and Cognito is not correct is because relational database solutions like Aurora is also relational database. Okay, they are impractical for your frequently changing schema, and Cognito is just for user authentication and authorization. Okay, so nothing as such is mentioned in the scenario. So the correct answer is DynamoDB and AppSync. Next question. A company is running a multi-tier web application farm in a virtual private cloud, that's VPC, that is not connected to their corporate network. They are connecting to the VPC over the internet to manage a fleet of EC2 instances running in both the public and private subnets. The solution architect has added a Bastion host with Microsoft Remote Desktop Protocol access to the application instance security groups, but the company wants to further limit administrative access to all the instances in the VPC. Which of the following Bastion host deployment options will meet this requirement? So first of all here, what is a Bastion host? So Bastion host is a special purpose computer on a network specifically designed and configured to withstand attacks. Like if you have a Bastion host in AWS, it is basically just an EC2 instance. Okay. So what it does is it is in public subnet, and then either you can have a public IP address or a elastic IP address, and with sufficient of RDP or SSH access defined in the security group. Now users log on to Bastion host via SSH or RDP and then use the session to manage other hosts in the private subnets. Okay, I hope now that is clear. So let's go with the options one by one. Deploy a Windows Bastion host with an elastic IP address in the public subnet and allow SSH access to the Bastion from anywhere. So now why this is incorrect is because uh, since it is a Windows Bastion, okay, you should allow RDP, not SSH. Okay, so this is clearly out of question. Coming to next, deploy a Windows Bastion host with an elastic IP address in the private subnet. You do not deploy Bastion host for private subnet. Okay, so that is incorrect basically. Okay, it should always be deployed in the public subnet, not private subnet. Deploy a Windows Bastion host on the corporate network that has RDP access to all EC2 instances in the VPC. So now this is also incorrect because you do not deploy Bastion host to your corporate network. It should be in the public. It should be in the public subnet of your VPC. So deploy a Windows Bastion host with an elastic IP address in the public subnet. Correct. And allow RDP access to Bastion from the corporate IP, only from the corporate IP addresses. So this is the correct answer. That what happens is you will deploy the Bastion host in public subnet with an elastic IP address, and as it is a Windows Bastion host, you will allow RDP access only from your corporate IP addresses. Clear? Next question. An AI powered forex trading application consumes thousands of data assets to train its machine learning model. The application's workload requires a high performance parallel hot storage to process the training datasets concurrently. It also needs cost effectively cold storage to archive those datasets that yield low profit. Which of the following Amazon storage services should the developer use? So now here, first of all, you should understand what is parallel hot storage and what is cold storage. Cold storage means it is archived, you need whenever you need, it should be available at a certain amount of time. Okay, so according to this question, it needs two requirements. It wants high performance parallel hot storage, okay, and cost effective cold storage. So in this case, what we can do is we can use FSX Lustre for the first requirement, that is the high performance parallel hot storage, because to process data sets concurrently. Okay, and for the second one we can use second requirement, that is the cold storage, we can use S3 because it is the most cost effective. It has glacier deep archive. Through that you can use that. Okay, and why FSX Lustre? We have already discussed Lustre previously also. So FSX Lustre is a high performance file system. It is used for fast processing of workloads, and it is a particular open source parallel file system which stores data across multiple network file servers to maximize performance and reduce bottlenecks. Now let's see why others are not correct. That is A, B and D are not correct. So let's read that. Use FSX for Windows file server and S3 for hot and cold storage. So now why Windows file server should not be used is because Windows file server does not have a parallel file system itself. Okay, Lustre has that, not Windows file server. Okay, so this is incorrect. Then next, use elastic file system EFS and S3 for hot and cold storage respectively. So now EFS supports concurrent access, but it does not have that kind of high performance ability that you require at machine learning levels. So D, use FSX for Lustre and EBS for provision IOPS SSD volumes for hot and cold storage. So hot storage is correct here, but for the cold storage they are using EBS. So EBS has an option called as HDD, but its price is very high and it is idle. It is not ideal for data archiving. So cold HDD is like much more expensive than S3 Glacier or Deep Archive, and here we need a cost effective one. Okay, read this, as I told in some previous question also, that whenever it is cost effective, make your choices correctly. Okay, so the correct answer to this is use FSX for Lustre as a hot storage and for cold storage S3. Okay. Coming to the next question, a game development company operates virtual reality and augmented reality games which use various RESTful web APIs hosted on their on-premises data center. Due to the unprecedented growth of the company, they decided to migrate their system to AWS cloud to scale their resources as well as to minimize their cost. That is the reason of AWS, right? Which of the following should you recommend as the most cost effective and scalable solution to meet the above requirement? Okay, they have there's a gaming company which works in AR and VR. Okay, they have RESTful web APIs developed on their hosted on their on-premises data center, and now their company is growing and they want to move to cloud. Okay, moving cloud reasons we have discussed a lot of times in the Cloud Practitioner series, so you can check that out if not checked. Okay, so what is the most cost effective? The point here is most cost effective and scalable solution. Okay, and as this is a REST API, you need to think about that also. So the best answer in this scenario should be a combination of Lambda and API gateway, because this solution is best cost effective wise also, and also it is highly scalable. You will be charged only when you use your Lambda function, unlike having an EC2 instance that will always run. So the best way is to use Lambda and Amazon API gateway. Now let's see why other options are not correct. Use a spot fleet of EC2 instances, each with an EFA, that is Elastic Fabric Adapter. Now, what is Elastic Fabric Adapter? It is like a simple network service that you can attach to your EC2 instance. It is as simple as in computers how you have your graphic cards, right? Something related to that kind. It provides you HPC cluster. You have a lot of flexibility, elasticity, scalability provided by the cloud. Okay, but EFA is scalable here, but spot fleet of EC2 instances is not a scalable option here. Okay, it doesn't have auto scaling involved, so that this is the reason why this answer is incorrect. Set up a microservice architecture with ECS, ECR and Fargate. Now ECS is mainly used to host Docker applications. Okay, and in addition with ECS and ECR, Fargate alone is not scalable. So that is why this is not recommended in this scenario. Last option, host the APIs in a static S3 web hosting bucket behind a CloudFront web distribution. Now, why this is incorrect is because there is no compute capability for S3. Okay, you can use it as a static website, although this solution is scalable since it is using CloudFront, right? So, but the use of S3 to host web APIs or dynamic website is still incorrect. So correct answer is Lambda and API gateway. A company has a cryptocurrency exchange portal that is hosted in an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances behind an application load balancer and is deployed across multiple AWS regions. The users can be found all around the globe, but the majority are from Japan and Sweden. Because of the compliance requirements in these two locations, you want the Japanese users to connect to the servers in the AP Northeast 1 Asia Pacific, that is the Tokyo region, while the Swedish users should be connected to the servers in the EU West 1 EU Ireland region. So, which of the following services would allow you to easily fulfill this requirement? So this is a straightforward question that it has been deployed across multiple regions, and it is also having a application load balancer. So to connect to location specific, what do we use? We use Route 53 geolocation routing policy. So let's see why B, C and D are not correct. So, simple Route 53 weighted routing policy is for the point when you want to give weightage to the websites, right? Like if you want to give 25% weightage and 75% weightage, you want to break it down into weightage specific. So, in this question, the requirement is to go location specific and setting up an application load balancers that will automatically route the traffic to the proper AWS region. Now, why this is incorrect? It is because Elastic load balancers distribute traffic among EC2 instances, but not across AWS regions. Okay. Setting up a new CloudFront web distribution with geo restriction feature enabled is this is also incorrect, because restriction feature is primarily used to prevent the users. Okay, like to prevent, like how if you're living abroad from rather than from your current country, so you use a virtual private network, right? Because you are being restricted, so that restriction is what it is, a geo restriction feature of CloudFront. So the correct answer is Route 53 geolocation routing policy. Next question. Please go through the questions carefully and check out whether you have to select one or two, and it is a no negative marking exam. So please go ahead and at least select, do not leave it unselected. Even if you think that okay fine, you will put it for a review, so mark the answer whatever you feel is correct at the first, and then, because if you do not get time for the review and maybe your answer was correct, you'll at least get some marks for that, right? So let's read this. A startup needs to use a shared file system for its .NET web application running on an EC2 Windows instance. The file system must provide a high level of throughput and IOPS that can also be integrated with Microsoft Active Directory. Which is the most suitable service that you should use to achieve this requirement? So coming to this, here your main keywords will be, first of all, they'll be using a file system and they are using Active Directory integration. Okay, so these two are your major requirements. So the only possible answer is what? FSX Windows file server. But we also have to think like it requires high level of throughput and IOPS, right, as per given in the question. So Windows FSX Windows file server can scale out storage to hundreds of petabytes of data with tens of GB of throughput performance and millions of IOPS. So this is the reason the correct answer is FSX for Windows file server, because it gives you all the requirements that we need for the current scenario. Okay, so we'll check out why other answers are not correct, why EFS is not correct. So EFS is not correct because EC2 they are using a Windows instance, and EFS can handle only Linux workloads. Okay, that's the reason EFS is not correct. AWS storage gateway, file gateway. So why this is incorrect is because although it can be used as a shared file system for Windows, but and also it can be integrated with Active Directory. Okay, but here when you have to compare the higher level of throughput and IOPS, that time FSX is like far more better. Okay, that's the reason. As I said always, that maybe two correct answers are there, but you need to think in all given scenarios what will be the perfect fit for it, and in what way you will always save cost, and you have to have a optimal solution, right? You don't no company likes to have heavy maintenance or something. Amazon EBS provisioned IOPS SSD volumes. So why this is incorrect? It's because this is just a block storage and we need a full-fledged file system. Okay, so FSX for Windows file server is the correct answer. Next question. If you're liking this videos, please do subscribe the channel. So let's go and read the next question. The company that you are working for has a highly available architecture consisting of an elastic load balancer and several EC2 instances configured with the auto scaling in 3 AZs. You want to monitor your EC2 instances based on a particular metric which is not readily available in CloudWatch. Which of the following is a custom metric in CloudWatch which you have to manually set up? So this is the kind of question which I was checking out in the last part 5 of the video, that there is one question which talks about matrix of CloudWatch. So yes, this is the question. So what they're telling here is that it has a highly available architecture. It has ELBs, EC2s, and it has there's an auto scaling enabled in various AZs, 3 AZs. Okay. Now what you want to do is you want to monitor on a particular metric, and which is that is not available in CloudWatch. So what custom metric can you set up? So basically, custom metrics of CloudWatch are what? Memory utilization, disk swap utilization, disk space utilization, page file utilization, and log collection. This points I'm reading from the AWS docs. You can refer them. CPU utilization, then disk read activity, and network packets. So all these three are incorrect because these are all readily available. We want a custom metric that you have to manually set up. Okay, so manually setting up is memory utilization of an EC2 instance. Okay. Next question. A company is receiving semi-structured and structured data from from different resources every day. The solution architect plans to use big data processing frameworks to analyze vast amounts of data and access it using various business intelligence tools and standard SQL queries. Which of the following provides most high performing solution that fulfills this requirement? Okay, so you're getting data from various sources every day. It can be in structured form or semi-structured form, and it is also trying to process big data processing. Okay, so it should be able to handle intelligence tools and standard SQL queries. So what solution can you give to the company? So here the big word is big data processing frameworks, and you have to have intelligence tools, and also you have to handle standard SQL queries to analyze the data. So for this you need EMR, and then what happens is inside EMR there will be some cluster which will perform data transformations. Basically they will extract, transform, and load the data into Redshift, and then there you can use business intelligence application for analyzing your data. So the correct answer to this is create an Amazon EMR cluster and store the process data in Redshift. Okay, but let's see why other options are not correct. Create an EC2 instance and store the process data in Amazon EBS. So now why this is not correct is because first of all, a single EBS backed EC2 instance is quite limited in its computing capability. Okay, and now you have a lot of administrative overhead, like you have to manually install and maintain the big data frameworks. Okay, so better is to use EMR clusters. Okay, use AWS Glue and store the process data in S3. So now why this is incorrect is because Glue is just a serverless ETL service that crawls your data, builds a data catalog, and performs the data preparation. Like it will transform, it will ingest your data, but it won't allow to utilize big data frameworks effectively. Okay, like EMR allows, it won't allow that way. And moreover, S3 can run only simple SQL queries. You cannot run a lot of standard SQL queries in it. It will be a very basic SQL queries. Use Amazon Kinesis Data Analytics and store the process data in Amazon DynamoDB. So why this is incorrect is because DynamoDB does not support for the use of standard SQL and business intelligence tools like Redshift. Okay, so this is the reason this is wrong. So the correct answer to this is using EMR cluster and storing the data in Redshift. Next question. A company runs its multi-tier online shopping platform on AWS. Every new sale transaction is published as a message in an open source RabbitMQ queue that runs on an EC2 instance. There is a consumer application is hosted on a separate EC2 instance that consumes the incoming messages, which then stores transaction in a self-hosted PostgreSQL database on another EC2 instance. All of the EC2 instances used are in the same availability zone in the EU Central 1 region. A solution architect needs to redesign its cloud architecture to provide highest availability with least amount of operation overhead. What a solution architect to do to meet the company's requirement above? A big question, right? So don't worry, don't get confused. Break it into parts. So I would suggest when you have this kind of question in the exam, so you have an option of using a whiteboard. Okay, so whenever you practice, also practice in that form. create short forms of your services. For example, RabbitMQ, just write RMQ, and EC2 is itself, EC2 is a short form, and then multi-AZ, MAZ. So you can, this really helped me because of my study partners whom I had. So that was a really good tip to me. So I'm suggesting you all please use that while practicing. Just make a plus formulas how we used to do in school, right? This plus this, if this is the condition, what kind of logic will you apply? What would work well? Okay, that similar kind of logic, and I say there is no particular formula which is correct exactly in AWS, because every time it changes according to the scenario. So understand your basic rules. Okay, like for example, if you have a key value table, okay, key value data to be stored, so key value data can be stored in DynamoDB. Getting it? Like if you have that, okay, frequent schema changes, so DynamoDB, like that kind of rules. So similarly try to create rules with two service combinations. Okay, so now let's see what this question is saying. It is saying there's a multi-tier online shopping platform. Okay, whenever there is a new transaction, it is published as a message in RabbitMQ queue. Okay, and where that queue is running, it is running on EC2 instance. Now there is a consumer application on a separate EC2 instance which consumes these messages. It will store the transaction in the database on another EC2 instance. Okay, now all these basically three EC2 instance. One is publishing a message, second is consuming, and third is it is getting stored in the PostgreSQL database on another EC2 instance. Okay, and now they are saying all these three EC2 instances are in the same AZ in EU Central 1 region. Okay, so now they want to have better high availability, they want to have high availability, and also they want to have least amount of operation overhead. Now this you can see, there are a lot of operation overhead. Publish first, then consume it in another EC2, then store it in another third EC2. Okay, so let's see what are the options. Migrate the RabbitMQ queue to simple queue service. Rehost the consumer application to an Amazon OpenSearch service cluster. Migrate the PostgreSQL database to Aurora serverless cluster. So first of all, make this as a point. You cannot directly migrate RabbitMQ to SQS. Okay. So first you need to migrate RabbitMQ to Amazon MQ, which is the service which Amazon is providing for RabbitMQ. Okay. So then only you can migrate it to SQS. Okay. So now this point itself says you that there is a lot of operation overhead. First you'll move to another queue, then you'll move to another queue. There itself the option is eliminated. Okay. Option 2, migrate the RabbitMQ to MQ. Okay, this is a valid option. To a cluster broker deployment setup. Launch a multi-AZ auto-scaling group of EC2 instances that host the consumer application and migrate the existing database to RDS for PostgreSQL in a multi-AZ configuration. Sounds good, and let's understand what is it saying. So now MQ will ensure that you're having high availability properties. It's applied to all. Okay, and then you're creating a clustered broker, no problem. Now if you have, so easily you can move RabbitMQ to MQ. Okay, and you have a great cluster broker deployment setup, which is like a big cluster, a lot of messages and all, something like Kafka you can say. Okay, and those who do not know Kafka, please let me know. I'm also planning to create a tutorial on that as well. Then what they're saying is launch a multi-AZ auto-scaling group for EC2 instances that host the consumer application. A better way, right? And then you can migrate the database into RDS for easy multi-AZ deployment configuration. So all these migrations will make highest availability and it will be with least amount of operation overhead. Okay, let's see why others are not correct. C and D. Migrate the RabbitMQ to an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. Rehost the consumer application to an ECS cluster with AWS Fargate. Migrate PostgreSQL to Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL using the Aurora cloning feature. Now, why this is incorrect is because you cannot deploy a queuing service to an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. Okay, next, migrate the RabbitMQ to a redundant pair active standby of MQ brokers in AWS. Launch a multi-AZ launch a multi-AZ auto-scaling group for the EC2 instances that host the consumer application. Migrate the PostgreSQL database to RDS for PostgreSQL with cross-region read replicas. So now why this is incorrect? Like although you can have this active standby MQ, it will provide you better availability. Okay, but it will be like active and standby architecture, it is good, but in this case a database standpoint, if you see, in this case it's better to launch an RDS in a multi-AZ deployment configuration, because it will provide you high availability and it will also provide you fast failover than just adding a read replica. Okay, so the correct answer is we'll have RabbitMQ to MQ to a cluster broker deployment setup like Kafka something, and then we will launch auto-scaling group of EC2 instances in multi-AZ to host the consumer application, and then migrate the database to RDS in a multi-AZ deployment feature. Next question. A data analytics company is setting up an innovative checkout free grocery store. Their solution architect developed a real-time monitoring application that uses smart sensors to collect the items that the customers are getting from the groceries, refrigerators, and shelves, and then automatically deduct it from their accounts. The company wants to analyze the items that are frequently being bought and store the results in S3 for durable storage to determine the purchase behavior of its customers. What service must be used to easily capture, transform, and load streaming data into S3, Elasticsearch service, and Splunk? So now here it's basically they want to know how is the demand, so that they can check what supply they need to give the proper items to their customers. Okay, so you need a service which will capture all this, and then it will transform and it will load the data into S3, Elasticsearch service, and Splunk. Okay, because it's a real time, and you need to maintain all capture, transform, and load streaming data. So Kinesis Data Firehose is the easiest way to load streaming data into data stores and analytics tools. And the as I told in my previous video also, many times in the question itself you have the definition. So what is a Kinesis Data Firehose? It is used to easily capture, transform, and load streaming data into S3, Elasticsearch service, and Splunk. Okay, this is the definition of data firehose, guys. So understand it carefully. So what it does is it is a fully managed service that automatically scales to match the throughput of your data and requires no ongoing administration. Okay, it can batch, it can compress, and can encrypt the data before loading it. It can do a lot of features. Now let's see why others are incorrect. Redshift. So why Redshift is incorrect? Redshift is a data warehousing. So making it simple, it will not have any thing to do with the requirement of being able to load and stream the data into stores, right, for analytics. Then Kinesis. Why not Kinesis? Is because Kinesis is like the I would say parent, and it has four child classes, which are Kinesis Data Firehose, Kinesis Data Streams, Kinesis Video Streams, Kinesis Data Analytics. So for this case, it is specifically they have given what they want to do, and that is the definition of data firehose. So that's the reason Kinesis is not the correct answer. Whereas SQS, we all know now what SQS is. Okay, it cannot be used to do all these features. It's a simple queue service. Okay, so the correct answer is Kinesis Data Firehose. Next question. A company plans to launch an application that tracks the GPS coordinates of delivery trucks in the country. The coordinates are transmitted from each delivery truck after every 5 seconds. You need to design an architecture that will enable real time processing. Mark my words, real time processing of these coordinates from multiple consumers. The aggregated data will be analyzed in a separate reporting application. Which AWS service would you use to should you use for this scenario? So now what they are doing is if you're ordering something, you for example, if you're ordering some, say, simple pizza, so you have the tracking system, right? So that's what they're saying, that they want an application that tracks the delivery of the truck in the country after every 5 seconds after each delivery. So now here, what we discussed in the previous question, kinesis is the one which helps you to do that, about real time processing of the coordinates. It can easily do it. So what is kinesis? It makes it easy to collect, process, and analyze real time streaming data, so you can get timely insights, and you can also react to your new information what you have got, as it's a real time one. And best is, it provides it's very cost effective. Okay, with flexibility, you have a lot of even you can, the data can scale. So it's the best service to use in this scenario, like, about if you have like click streams, if you want to, if you open a website, and if you want to capture the insights of the website, the user is clicking on what all service of a website or an application. So all these insights is being taken from kinesis wherever they are using AWS cloud structure. So this is a simple and straightforward answer. So I'm not discussing about why other points are incorrect. It's real time processing. First thing should come into your mind is kinesis if they're asking. But make sure your question, what they're asking. When I gave this exam, I got a question in which they were explaining some story of 5 to 6 services combination, and the question which they asked was just from one story, and which was the scenario they had just created. But make sure what they're trying to ask you. Okay, so may read the question properly. I'm telling you this again, please read the question properly. So practice well with your practice test, whichever practice test you're taking. Set up a timer such that you have at least 20 minutes left for the review. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is kinesis. Next question. A leading IT consulting company has an application which processes a large stream of financial data by an ECS cluster, then stores the result into DynamoDB. You have to design a solution to detect new entries in the DynamoDB table, then automatically trigger a Lambda function to run some tests to verify the processed data. Okay, a very nice question. This I'm gonna literally planning a hands-on lab on this. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Okay, so what solution can be easily implemented to alert the Lambda function of new entries while requiring minimal configuration change? So here, what are your key points? DynamoDB is your one pointer. You have Lambda function if you want to create formulas, right? So you have ECS plus DynamoDB plus Lambda and minimal configuration change. Okay. So this kind of question is definitely it comes one question about DynamoDB. You will get 2 to 3 questions. Nowadays exam is mostly the serverless service questions. So make sure your serverless part is good. So let's see the options to this. Enable DynamoDB streams to capture table activity and automatically trigger the Lambda function. Yes, that's how you do it. Okay, because when you say minimal configuration, that can be minimal configuration change that can be done only using DynamoDB streams. Okay, whenever there is like a new entry in the table, DynamoDB streams, where if it is enabled, it will go and trigger the Lambda function. Okay, CloudWatch alarms to trigger Lambda function whenever a new entry is created. No, CloudWatch alarms is used for monitoring the services, not to monitor what changes you have made. Okay. Invoking the Lambda functions using SNS each time and that the ECS cluster successfully processed financial data. Now, why this is incorrect is because you don't need to create an SNS topic to invoke Lambda functions. Okay. You can easily do it using DynamoDB streams as we discussed. Use systems manager automation to detect new entries in the DynamoDB table, then automatically invoke the Lambda function for processing. So why this is incorrect? It is because you can use this automation service to primarily simplify common maintenance and deployment tasks of EC2 instances. Okay, it does not have the capability to detect new entries in DynamoDB table. Okay, so the correct answer is you will enable DynamoDB streams. Next question. An autoscaling group ASG of Linux EC2 instances has an Amazon FSX for open ZFS file system with basic monitoring enabled in CloudWatch. The solution architect noticed that the legacy web application hosted in autoscaling group takes a long time to load. After checking the instances, the architect noticed that the ASG is not launching more instances as it should be, even though the servers already have high memory usage. Which of the following options should the architect implement to solve this issue? Now let's see the options. Install the CloudWatch Unified Agent to the EC2 instances. Set up a custom parameter in the AWS System Manager parameter store with the CloudWatch agent configuration to create an aggregated metric on memory usage percentage. Scale the auto scaling group based on the aggregated metric. So yes, this is correct. So what is CloudWatch agent? It enables you to collect both system metric and the log files from the EC2 instances and also from your on-premise servers. So it supports both Windows Server and it supports Linux also. And you can allow you can also select the matrix that you want to be collected. So in this they have also mentioned about system manager parameter store. So like what is this is it is a capability of AWS System Manager, and it provides secure hierarchical storage for configuration, data management, and secrets management. Like you want to store your password, your database strings, or your AMI IDs. So all this is being taken care by the AWS System Manager parameter store. Okay. So that's why the correct answer is you will install the CloudWatch Unified Agent. This is the correct one. Okay, and you will be using SMP. But let's see why other options are not correct. Enable detailed monitoring on the EC2 instances for the auto scaling group. Use Amazon Forecast to automatically scale out the auto scaling group based on the aggregated memory usage of EC2 instances. Now why this is incorrect? Because detailed monitoring does not provide your matrix for memory usage. Okay, CloudWatch does not monitor your memory usage. Okay. Implement an AI solution that leverages Amazon Comprehend to track the near real time memory usage of each and every EC2 instance. No, Comprehend cannot track near real time memory usage. So, this is definitely not correct. Okay. Then you set up an Amazon recognition to automatically identify and recognize the cause of the high memory usage. Use the well architected tool to automatically trigger the scale out event in the ASG based on the overall memory usage. So recognition is used for what? It is recognition is used for image recognition service. You can detect the objects, scenes, and faces and all. Okay. It can't be used to track the high memory usage of your EC2 instances. Okay. So this is incorrect. So CloudWatch Unified Agent with SMPS. So the last question for today. A technology company is building a new cryptocurrency trading platform that allows buying and selling of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Tether, and many others. You were hired as a cloud engineer to build the required infrastructure needed for this new trading platform. On your first week at work, you started to create CloudFormation YAML scripts and define all of the needed AWS resources for the application. Your manager was shocked that you haven't created the EC2 instances, S3 buckets, and other AWS resources straight away. He does not understand the text-based scripts you have done and has asked for your clarification. In this scenario, what are the benefits of CloudFormation service that you would tell your manager to clarify his concerns? You have to select two answers. So now see, this was all a story. What is the main question? What are the benefits of CloudFormation service? Okay. So what is CloudFormation service? Now this is the definition available in the. So it enables modeling, provisioning, and version controlling of your entire AWS architect infrastructure. Okay. So you do not have to worry about what you if you have to build so many things. If you list down at one place, I want this, then it will be done. Okay. So and it also allows you to model all this in a single text file. Okay, a YAML text file. So these are the two benefits you're having of CloudFormation. So now let's see why other options are incorrect. A storage location for the code of your application. So no, it is not a storage location. It is not used to store your application code. For that you have to use code commit as a code repository, not CloudFormation. Okay, provides highly durable and scalable data storage. As I discussed, it's not a data storage service at all. Then using CloudFormation itself is free, including the AWS resources that you have created. Oh really? The AWS resources you have to pay. Okay, using CloudFormation does not mean that you will get your resources for free. Okay. So definitely that's not the correct answer. So your correct answers are, it allows you to model entire infrastructure in a single text file and also enables modeling, provisioning and version controlling of your entire AWS infrastructure. Okay. So these are the benefits. So that's it guys. This is the last part of the series. So please let me know what kind of videos would you like to see from on my channel, and do not forget to subscribe, and also let me know what kind of services you are lacking so that I can create a detailed video on that. Also, if anyone is interested in to learn Spring Boot, Kafka, any backend service which you would tell me, so that we can plan a kind of hands-on on that too. Okay. So stay happy and all the very best for your exam. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. Do not forget to hit the bell icon to get a notification of the updated video. Thank you.